So we'll start the session. Today we are going to talk about a very important thing related to CRM, because as we have said, CRM is all about building relationship with the customer. And in building relationship, one of the fundamental rules is that you should know with whom you are dealing with in order to build the relationship. Because from person to person, from a group to group, nation to nation, the thinking and the behavior patterns are completely different. Therefore, if you don't understand the clients, it's very difficult for you to build relationships. So in order to understand the clients, you need marketing information. And at the same time, in order to understand the trends, marketing environment, competitors, you need marketing information. So marketing information is considered as the most important asset, right? If you even cut off the word marketing, information is considered as one of the most valuable assets for an organization in this era, in order to devise their strategies and to become competitive, right? So today our session is about marketing information systems and as to how you should approach in gathering information in order to move with CRM activities, right? So if you really look at the definition of marketing information as to what it is, according to Kotler, marketing information system consists of people. Okay? So that means this has some involvement with people, where people has to involve and in collecting information and also interpreting information. Now there is one important thing you have to remember when it comes to this session. Gathering information is what we talk too much, but interpreting information is equally important, because there are companies who have this drip problem. Drip problem means DRIP, that is data rich, information poor. So they have all kind of data which they have in their databases, but they have not processed it in a meaningful manner to get information. Now, you having data is of no use. You may have data about the withdrawals, right? But data about withdrawals, how much X, Y, Z, A, B, C has withdrawn, has no meaning for you, right? It's just data, right? But this has to be processed for you to get some meaning. For example, if you have withdrawals, one simple way is you edit, and the total sum will tell you how much withdrawals per day. Now that is information. Right? And then sometimes you might collect how much withdrawals per day for a longer period, and we'll say, okay, withdrawal pattern. Now that is information. Right? So based on those information, like how much withdrawals are there per day and what is the trend or what is the pattern, will help you to go for a decision as to how much money you should keep in your vault or in the ATA. So data itself will not give you value. Right? Now people need to process the data in order to find solutions for their problems, right? And once you process the data, you can call it information, and those information need to be used by people in order to take strategic decisions, right? And the information can be weaved by two different people in two different ways. Now that is the beauty of human mind. That is the beauty of human involvement in this whole process, because data itself or the technology itself, I don't believe can do wonders. What the whole technology is driven by commands given by people, right? So who gives the command? That is the person. Now, for example, there is this very famous story in marketing. Now, there were two fellows who went to do a feasibility study to a distant place in the jungle, and one came and told that none of the people in the jungle are wearing slippers or shoes, therefore there is no market. No point going to that jungle village, right? So the second fellow who went to the study came and said, see, none of them are using slippers or shoes. So there is a very lucrative opportunity for us to go and market our products. So the same situation can be viewed by two different individuals in two different angles based on their creativity, thinking capacity, and the risk-taking ability, so on and so forth, right? So therefore, data is there, but you should not underestimate the value of people who has the capacity to process data in order to gather required information. And it's very important to ask what to do with data and what information we can gather out of this data, right? So then you have equipments where you will use to gather data, and then the procedures to gather, right? Because in a formal setup, you don't gather data like you do in the Lindalanga Sangam, right? You have to follow a particular scientific method and a procedure where you will gather reliable, accurate, up-to-date information, up-to-date data in order to get into decisions with information which are very clear and valuable, right? Then once you gather data, you have to sort, analyze, evaluate, and you need to distribute the findings in a timely and an accurate manner, right? Now, why timely? Because decisions need to be taken when it is due. Now, you cannot, if you take the decisions late, then there is a problem. If you take the decisions too early also, then there's a problem, right? So by looking at the whole environment, you need to find out at what point you need to take a decision, on what you have to take the decision, and how, what is the time that you have in order to do that. Sometimes even if you go to the stock market, you will understand why this is so important. The difference between 5 seconds may be a difference of 2-3 rupees, right? 2-3 rupees into 100,000 is 200,000, right? So the decisions that you take is critical in order for you to become successful. And in order to take decisions on time, you need to provide information, you have to give timely information on time for them to process. Then the information need to be accurate, because if the decisions are taken based on information, then
it's
if
9
the information is wrong, then your decision is also wrong. Now there are two ways that we take decisions. One is, we call it intuition, right? Intuition. Now intuition is where you take the decision based on your gut feeling. Now that gut feeling comes to you with your experience and your background, right? So decisions are taken based on intuition, right? So that is a gut feeling. Now even in the office, if someone asks you, okay, shall we do this? You will say, okay, let's go and do it. And then another person asks, why are you asking us to do it? Why are you asking us to increase the price? Then you might say, okay, fine, that's my experience. That's what I feel. Right? According to my experience, I know it is going to happen. Right? So, for example, even very recently, there was this argument as to what percentage of this particular segment should be given a particular benefit. And when we look at the historical data, there are no data. So when there is no data, then you have to go for research. And if you go for research, you will not be able to launch what you want to do on time, because it will take long time for you to do the research and come. By the time the whole benefit is gone. So what happens is, the experienced people will look at it, and then based on their experience may come out and say, okay, let's give 20% for segment 1, let's give 10% for segment 2, let's give 15% for segment 3. Likewise, you give a percentage. Now somebody might ask you why you gave that percentage, how you gave that percentage. Now that is your experience. Right? So you take decisions based on intuition, right? So you might go and say, okay, let's increase the price. I am sure nobody will cancel accounts, right? Nobody will cancel our credit cards. Now someone might argue with you, how are you telling? So you might say, okay, right, fine. That's my experience. That's how the things have happened in the past also. Oh, it's my gut feeling. I think so. I'm sure. I'm pretty sure. Now these are all decisions backed by intuition. Then the second type of decision making is decisions backed by data, right? Information. Now, second type is decisions backed by information. Now, here what happens is you take the decision based on information, not based on your intuition. Right? Now, the beauty of it is sometimes your intuition may go wrong. Maybe because you have not looked at the new trends, or the customer trends have changed, the behavior patterns have changed, or else what the data you have is not representative. It's a small amount of experience that you have or exposure. For example, if the total debit card market is about millions, if you have a debit card base of 50,000, you will not have a representative experience for you to take a decision on the debit card behavior patterns, right? So sometimes the information you get may be surprising, and you might find the things that you have thought the customer want, he doesn't want. The things that you have thought the customer will not like, he likes it, right? And the things that you have thought that the customers will not accept, they have accepted. Sometimes things that you have thought they will accept, they have rejected. Right? So the actual data will give you a kind of a better picture about the whole context for you to take decisions, right? So decisions taken backed by information, based on information, are considered more accurate, right? More accurate than decisions taken on intuition. And at the same time, when you take a decision on your intuition, it's very difficult for you to justify why. But when you take decisions based on information, it's easy for you to justify why, because there are evidence, there are some data that will back your decision. So that will make the decision maker also safe and easy to convince others, right? So therefore, in taking decisions, you have to think on what grounds you take it, based on intuition or information. So you take on intuition, the risk level is high. If you take on information, risk level is low. So therefore, if you gather timely and accurate information, the decision makers can take more accurate or more effective decisions than taking decisions on their intuition, right? So that is the important. So if we really look at the definition as a whole again, it says marketing information system consists of people, equipment, and procedures to, the second part, gather, sort, analyze, evaluate, and distribute needed, timely, and accurate information to marketing decision makers. So even if you cut off the word marketing, to decision makers, right? Not to decision. So therefore, even in CRM, this is considered as the key to the success, because in a CRM system also, what we really do is that we always try to gather information related to the customer, and we try to remain proactive, right? Now, in one of the principles in CRM is that you have to be proactive. That is, before the customer asks you, you should be able to provide it, right? Now, there are two types. One is proactive, the other one is reactive. Now, proactive people take decisions quickly, decisions in advance, and they do things before the customer comes and asks for them, right? Or before the customer takes the decision. For example, when a new product is to be launched, they launch it And when the customer comes to the organization and asks whether you have this type of product, it's there, right? Or sometimes they do it even before the customer asks, so that the customer will not find any inconvenience with them. So proactive people are people who think on behalf of the customer, who analyze the environment and understand trends, changes, and then see opportunities and threats in advance before others, right? Now that is a comparative advantage, right? So reactive is the other side of it. Now reactive people, they see the opportunity or the threat only when it arises. So they start working on it when there is a demand, or when there is a request, when there is a when there's a trigger. For example, they suddenly find their customers are leaving their organization, and they ask why, and the customer says, okay, because you don't have this. Now then only they start working on that, right? Or sometimes they find their business is dropping because their products have not kept with the improvements in technology, or improvements in the in terms of what customers require based on their behavioral patterns, right? Changes. So now reactive people will start taking decisions, will start acting when there's a trigger. Now in CRM, what we say is, don't wait until your customer comes and asks for it, or don't wait until your customer goes away from you for you to act. Always think on behalf of the customer. That's why you are customer centric, and then act in advance, so that your customer will not find any inconvenience in dealing with you, and they will always find that you are giving them the best solution and you are the best partner. So innovations, advancements, developments, changes are critical in order to keep the relationships going and make the people satisfied, so that they will say that you are the leader, you are the advisor. Because if they stay with you, they are always current, they are always running with the latest products and latest development, so that they find a lot of value in you, right? So you need to be proactive. You cannot wait until something happened to take decisions, right? So now I'm sure that you understand why information and the importance of it and the definition. And then if you really look at it in this is also from Kotler and Armstrong, 2017, right? So it says, now there are marketing managers and other information users, right? So they are the people who analyze information, involved with planning, implementation, organization, and control, the management actions, right? Analyzing, planning, implementation, organizing, control, right? So these people have needs, right? Because for them to go for the correct decisions, very effective planning, implementation, control, they need information. So it's very important that company have a system where they first assess information needs, right? So you assess information needs, what information people need, right? Or our management wants, our organization need, right? And then you go to developing information, needed information, right? So basically finding what you need, right? Now that is where the marketing information system comes into play, right? Comes into play. So there's a requirement, and now the marketing information system comes into play. And in the system, you will find first internal databases, where you first look at your organization already available data to see whether you have information that you need. Right? So that is a very cost-effective and a time-saving exercise, where you will look at your internal databases and try to gather information that is required by the decision makers, right? So if the internal databases are not going to work, then you go for your marketing intelligence. In the marketing intelligence, what happens is that you more work towards marketing environment, right? So you look at the target market, the trends, channels, competitors, public, macro environmental process like political, legal, social, economic, technological, environmental changes, developments, right? And you gather external information. Here, more towards competitors and the customer behavioral changes, right? So you gather all those information, and then you try to use that. And sometimes that may also not give you the required information. So sometimes you might go into marketing research, right? So you have a problem with your organization. So you start a research in order to find out data and then identify patterns and identify possible solutions and reasons in order to take the decisions. So you will go for internal databases, your marketing intelligence, where you gather information from external sources, and then marketing research, where you conduct research in order to find data, and based on that you get the required data, and then you convert it into information, and then you go for information analysis. So then the information is analyzed, and then the patterns are identified, trends are identified, correlations are identified, and then this information will be distributed to the required people, right? So the marketing information system will work on gathering information, internal databases, marketing intelligence, market research, analyzing information, and presenting those information or distributing those to the people who need information, right? So this is how you can summarize the whole process into a one diagram, right? Fine. So the next one, let's move forward with this. So it's very important, based on what we have learned and the diagram we have seen, to assess information needs as the first step. Assess information. What information you need? Now, although you think this is simple, this is not, right? This is again a little bit of a difficult thing for you to do, because if you go and ask even from your people what information you need, they will come out with a lot of answers. They say we need this, we need that, we need these information. So there are a lot of demand on what information they need. And sometimes if you really analyze, they don't need what they really ask, right? Because they are asking it for the comfort, right? They are asking it for the sake of asking, right? So if you really ask them again, why do you need it? And they might say, no, it's good to have, no? So now, for example, if you want to analyze the withdrawal patterns of an ATM, you will ask, okay, how much withdrawals per day, right? And you might not ask who has withdrawn it, customer name, NIC, customer telephone number. Sometimes those are valuable information, but it is not required for your decision. Your decision is to see how much I have to load into an ATM, right? So your question is how much money I should load into an ATM. So the data you require is the withdrawal, is on the withdrawals. So you might need withdrawals and withdrawal patterns, right? So if you ask other data, those are good to have but not required. So sometimes for a IT person writing a query to the database, we'll find it very simple and easy to ask the question, how much withdrawals per day. But it may be a little complicated if you ask so many other variables and information, and it will take time and effort. So therefore, first thing is you need to understand what are the information that you need. Right? And you have to understand the question and ask yourself, okay, what information we really need, right? And then the second part is, then you need to ask, okay, what are the requirements of our users and what are they asking, what information they are asking, and what can be provided. So they might ask you, okay, give us data about the ATM withdrawals and also data about the competitor ATMs. Now, competitor ATM information also may be needed for them to understand what is the total withdrawal pattern of that particular locality. So then they might ask you, okay, tell us about the downtimes of other bank ATMs. So during the downtimes, there may be more traffic. So there are certain decisions you can take on that as well. So sometimes for a IT person in the bank, he may have access to his data, but he may not have access to other bank data. So the answer is, okay, I can provide you my data, but we cannot give you competitor data to analyze the total behavior pattern of the locality. So there can be certain information that you need, but it cannot be provided. Maybe for some restrictions, right? It can be the cost, it can be the loss, it can be even the time, the effort. So there can be several barriers. As a result of that, you cannot provide the required information, right? So what you have to first analyze what they really need the managers to take the decision. Second is what can be provided. Then the third most important factor is cost related to obtaining of information and benefits. Cost related to obtaining information and benefits, because information does not come free to you. It comes with a cost, right? And the organization has to bear that cost and spend money. Then the question is, by spending money, by spending amount of rupees to gather information, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do with it? Okay. So this information that you are gathering by spending money, what kind of value it will generate to the organization? What are you going to do with it? So if you are asking it for the comfort or to have a good to have kind of a situation, no point. Right? Then the question you need to ask is, okay, fine, you need this information. Okay, fine, we will provide it. We will see how to provide it. But why do you need this? What are you going to do about it? What are you going to do with it? Right? And what is the value you are going to generate from the information that you get to the organization? So this cost benefit analysis also required, because in the banks, you might sometimes find people sending requests just to have some idea or just to have information for them to know certain things, but there is no value generation happening with those information. And sometimes you ask why you are taking that information, you might say that's the tradition. That is how it has been done, and we just file it. Right? So what are you going to do about it? Or we just save it and we're not looking at it. So therefore, it's very critical, very important that you answer these three questions. First one is what you really need. And in that case, always remember, the managers may sometimes overestimate or tell you something more than what they need. On the other side, they might tell you something less than what they need also. Now, for example, the same example we took, the ATM withdrawals. Now, they might tell you, okay, give us the ATM withdrawals per day. Now, the question is, ATM withdrawals per day is what your managers are asking in order to predict how much money they should load. Then the question is, do they know at what time, what days there will be a higher withdrawal or changes to the pattern? Now, that is a question. So therefore, you might talk to them and say, fine, your objective is to load the ATMs and make sure that the ATMs will not go out of cash. So in that case, fine, your information will be given. That is how much withdrawal per day. But why not we also gather information about withdrawal patterns based on hours, right? Every day, the 24 hours, how hourly, how the withdrawal pattern will change. And then how the withdrawal pattern will change weekly and monthly. Right? And what are the important days, peak days, peak hours, in order for us to ensure that we have the sufficient processors in place to load the ATM, loading time and the loading frequencies. Right? So the manager has asked only how much withdrawals per day, but you might find that that is not enough. He needs some other information so that he can take a better decision than a normal decision about how much to load. Okay? So therefore, there can be unnecessary information request, or there can be a situation where they have not requested the real requirement. Then what can be provided, and then the third factor is cost and benefit. What is the value that this information we are spending money and gathering will generate to the organization, right? So once you do that, then you go into your marketing information system, right? Once you do this part, then you go to your marketing information system, right? And then in the information system, you have three key channels for you to gather information. One is your internal data, right? So you have internally in your database demographic data, data about customer demographics like their age, their gender, right? Sometimes the marital status, their NICs, so on and so forth. So you have internal data in your database about the demographics of the customer. Then you have the behavior pattern data. Now that how they have behaved over the last years, whether they have paid on time, right? Whether they have taken loan facilities, right? How frequently they take loans overdrafts, how frequently they put FDs, whether they send their salaries to you, right? Whether they save or don't save, right? Their savings patterns, withdrawal patterns, right? And then their repayment behavior, credibility, right? Whether they pay on time, whether they are delay payers, right? So you can basically analyze. You have the behavior data also in your database, right? So based on this demographic data and behavior data, you can take lot of insights in order to fulfill the requirements. Then the other part is marketing intelligence, where you look at what is happening in the environment, including the changes in the external environment, like the legal, political, economic, social, technological changes, and then the competitors, what they do, right? The suppliers, the intermediaries. So you get information about all this external environment, and then you have market research, where you will go and find certain very important critical data related to very specific problem you have, and the data is unique to you, right? So you find that market research to solve certain questions you have, which cannot be solved without asking from the customer, or basically as doing a research and finding out, right? So for example, if someone asks you, okay, what is the satisfaction level of your customers, or what the customers think about your brand, you cannot go on to internal data or market intelligence and answer those questions. So what customers think about our brand, what customers think about our service, you need to go and ask, right? So you need to have research in that case, right? So now the second part, after you assessing information need, is to develop marketing information. So you basically go into these three channels to gather information. Right. So let's look at one by one. Give me a second. Right. So, sorry about it. First one is internal data. So you say that a company should develop an internal database that collect consumer and market information obtained from data sources within the company network. Now, this is a critical requirement. So even in CRM, we said one of the critical requirements in CRM is to have a proper database in place, an updated database where they have data about the customer, right? So a company, so first one is should have a very good database where they collect and store data from different sources from their company. So it can be the finance department where what the data they use for financial statements, costing data, so on and so forth. So this might be useful for you to understand some activity to do activity based costing and to find out what cost will go for what activities. Those are very valuable information. Then transactions. What are the transactions customers do? Sometimes the customer complains from your call center or the customer care centers, right? And then feedback of intermediaries. What your intermediaries like the wholesalers, the retailers, your franchise holders, agents will tell you about your products and the customer feedbacks, right? And the suggestions from the customer, right? So those will come from these intermediaries to you. And then the customer service request. So what kind of services your customers are requesting? What kind of services your customers are requesting, and why are they calling you? Why are they contacting you, right? So these are some information which you need to collect. Now these are limited amount, but there are a lot of other things, right? About your sales, then marketing information, right? Sales information, finance information, right? And information from your website, 9:30. Information from emails, information from call centers, right? Then information from your HR. So all these things you need to put it into a database. So when you store in a database, the database will store your data, historical data, and by sending a query, you can get some information using those data, right? So database is actually going to store data, and by sending queries and requests, you can gather information, right? So first step is that you need to have an internal database for an organization. Without that, you cannot move forward, right? And then if you really look at the value of it, today the technology has grown to such a level. When you have data, they can use the data in order to make you more proactive. So we go into now more predictive marketing than reactive marketing, right? Now reactive marketing is that you observe something and then you do for it. You do something about it, right? Something has happened and you do something about it, right? Now in predictive marketing, what happens is you predict what is going to happen and you act in advance so that the customer, when he needs it, it's there. When he needs it, it's there, right? And he gets something what he really feels that it is for him, more personalized, customized, right? So even if you look at the research results, it says predictive marketing initiatives that have been underway for some time are delivering impressive results. A vast majority of executives who have been overseeing predictive marketing efforts for at least 2 years, 86% report increased return on investment as a result of their predictive marketing. Only a handful, 5%, say there has been no or decreased return. So if you really look at the companies that has used predictive marketing using data and the databases, they have performed really well, and they have found that there is a higher return on investment when they go for these database developments and predictive marketing. and only over 95% is very positive on it, right? So this data and predictive marketing will help you to understand which customers to target. Right? Now, even if you really look at your branch database, by analyzing the database properly, you can find, okay, which customer I should target for a loan, which customer I should target for a credit card. Now, that is not rocket science. Even you can do it by looking at your data when you have a small amount of data. But when the data is big, right? So number of records are big. Like for example, if you have 50 customers, you can do it by yourself. But if you have 50,000 customers, now that is where you have to use the technology. Right? So then you need to use certain the technology software in order to analyze the data and find out who are my target customers. If not, you can always find it out by analyzing your data even manually. Right? Give me a second. Right? The important thing is that when you have data, it's easy for you to find target customers to whom you should sell what product, because you know their behavior patterns. And then some customers, you might say, don't even approach them to talk about a loan or overdraft, because if they say yes, it's a problem, right? Sometimes when you find that particular thing, the answer is yes, also there's a problem, right? So you must avoid those customers, approaching those, and they will, end of the day, will tell you, okay, see, you came and gave it to me, you came and asked it from me, right? Now don't tell, right? So you bear with me, right? So therefore you have to be very careful, right? So when you have data, you can take accurately target. Then you can find loyal customers, right? So you can find who are the customers that are patronizing my branch or our bank continuously. How the customers have obtained products, right? How many products they have obtained, right? And what is the number of products used by a particular customer. So likewise, you can analyze the customer and basically understand its loyalty towards the organization. And also basically when there's a request, it's easy for you to take a decision. For example, somebody will come and tell you, okay, you reverse my charges, right? You reverse my charges, you look at my loyalty. So now this customer, when you say, every customer will come to you in that way when they need a benefit, right? So every customer will come and tell you that I am a good customer, right? I'm a loyal customer. But are they really? Now, how are you going to find out? You need to find out using data. So you will look at, okay, how much they have used our, okay, let's see if it's a credit card, how much they have used our card during last 6 months, right? How long he has been using our card, right? Then how about his payments for the last 1 year, right? And then how much interest he has paid to us during the past, right? And whether he has introduced us more customers. Now, all these are data, right? And then you might look at, okay, whether they have deposits with us, whether they have other loan facilities with us. Now, for you to come to a small decision like reversing an interest charge or a late payment charge, you go and search all these data. And you can't do it without a database, without internal data system, right? So you have to have an internal system where will give you all this data, right? So based on that, you can take the call. Now, similarly, you can look at customer lifetime value. It's easy for you to come to that calculation, right? Because you know, right, okay, this is how much he has, this is the amount of money he has paid us as income. Okay, this is the income. This is how he has been depositing. These are the loan facilities he has taken. So by looking at it, you can predict the next 20 years with the customer, and you can say, okay, this is how this customer has behaved. this is his potential based on his demographic data, where he works, what are his qualifications, what is his age, right? So you look at all those things, and then you look at the behavioral data, the transactions, patterns, and then you say, okay, next 20 years, this will be the value of the customer. So that prediction you can arrive. Now it is been done in practical world, right? Then average purchase value, satisfaction level. Now these are all things that you can find by looking at your internal data from a database. Then the third factor is then how to position your brand, right? What they really value, whether they are price sensitive. So when you increase, decrease prices, what are the responses, right? When you increase rates, what is the response? When you decrease rate, what is the response, right? Then when you increase the price, or let's say card fees, service charges, what is the response? So you can look at all this. So you can either place your brand as a value for money, or more value, more price, and then more value, low price. So you can think of where to position, how to position, and what proposition you should adopt. That also can be done by looking at internal data. Then you can identify transactions patterns, take decisions. Then you can also identify potential customers, right? So you can look at your internal database and find out, okay, who are the customers that I can cross-sell credit cards, I can cross-sell a current account, I can upsell or upgrade the card, right? Okay, give him a more kind of a professional account instead of the normal account, right? Give him a senior citizen account instead of a normal FD. Right? So these are all that you should do by analyzing your database, because there can be a young adult who has been with you and now he has crossed the senior citizen age limit. You are still providing him the old rates, right? Sometimes you can call him and congratulate him for crossing the senior citizen limit and offer him a higher rate, which actually you might find as a cost in the short run, but that loyalty will generate you profits for years. Because they will not expect it from you, and once you do that, they go for a surprise, right? And that loyalty will support. So these are things that you can do in order to find out what is the real potential. Now, a customer who's having a normal savings account, who is a doctor, right? He may not be operating in your bank in a big scale, but what he is doing now with you is not his potential. Is not his potential. So by looking at his demographic data, past transactions, you can sometimes understand this is not the potential. There's so much potential that is unexplored. So you can explore that. Right? Then focus promotions. Now again, a very, very important part, very important area, because now when you do promotions, you basically do promotions as a common thing, right? It's a common thing. So everybody, you do one promotion. You say 25% off at this hotel. That is for everybody. And sometimes some people go there, some people don't go. Right? Or you might say 10% off at X supermarket. So X supermarket, when you say 10%, some people go there, some people don't go. Right? So they might say, okay, we don't go to that supermarket. We don't consider it as a supermarket that sells quality products. Our supermarket is this. Right? So you give 10%, a certain set of your clients will say, brilliant, this is where we shop, that is superb. Some people who are discount seekers might say, okay, now let's go for this supermarket to take this discount. But there can be a certain set of customers who will say, this offer is of no use for us. No value, right? So all communication you send to them is a waste, because they don't consider, but they don't patronize. So they say no point, right? And there can be sometimes a customer who is a senior citizen. You send him offers about certain certain fun activities, excitement activities, food promotions, he may not value it. He might say, I mean, like, okay, what the big deal? At this age, I can't do all those things, right? But sometimes if you send them for a discount voucher from a spa salon or Siddhalep Ayurveda to have a spa treatment, they might think, oh my God, super, right? Because at their age, to have a very soothing experience, right? And then if you send them medical vouchers, they say super, right? So based on what they really need. But if you give them an offer at the Baskin Robbins or KFC or McDonald's, they may not value it, right? So every customer have certain brands they patronize, certain transaction patterns, behavior patterns that they have, and when you give something which is actually suiting them. For example, for Chaturanga, I'll give let's imagine this. Chaturanga is going to Kargil's, and I'm sending Chaturanga at 10% offer at Kargil's. Dilani is shopping at Keel's, and I'm not sending Kargil's offer to Dilshani. I'm sending Keel's offer to Dilshani. So Chaturanga and Dilshani are both my customers, but Chaturanga will see the Kargil's offer, Dilshani will see the Keel's offer. So Dilshani will feel, my God, I'm to go on shopping today, and I have got a 10% from my bank today in the morning. It's just like they have done it for me. And Chaturanga will feel, okay, I'm about to go to Kargil's for my shopping. I just got 10%, and the bank has thought of me. Right? So it's very personalized. And sometimes maybe Dilshani is going to Kelly Federer. So when she passes the Kelly Federer, we send her a note saying, okay, 20% off. She's thinking, okay, this is where I buy my stuff. So let me go. And she buys. Right? And sometime if the Chaminde is patronizing House of Fashion, when he's passing House of Fashion, we send him a note saying, hey, 10% at House of Fashion, why don't you shop? Now Chaminda will find, oh my God, now this is for me, and he goes, right? And sometimes you might get your favorite discount for your favorite ice cream, favorite pizza, right? Now even if you call Pizza Hut, they will ask you, okay, sir, what do you like? You like to add extra cheese, right? Because you have been adding extra cheese for some time. It's there in their internal database, and they know that you like to add extra cheese. So they tell it before you. Now, even you were having an idea not to order it at that point. When they ask it, you might feel that I will order it also, because that's something that you like. And they are so good that if you go to if you give a call to Pizza Hut, they're so good in exploiting their internal database. They will even tell you where they'll ask you, okay, sir, Metadane they want to. We have to send you this place. And they give you suggestions about the favorite pizzas that you have ordered. So what do you like, the butter chicken, or what do you like, the chicken ultimo? So they tell you the suggestions also, right? And they know whether you have asked for discounts and offers in the past. So they might tell you, sir, there are offers, there are bulk, there are discounts, there are promotions. But they might not tell that to a person who has not asked it. Right? Even they know where you live, where your house, and when the moment you say the first word, I want it to my home, they'll say, okay, like, fine, we'll send it to you, sir. Right? And to my office, they send it. Right? And sometimes they do funny things also. Once they did it, and that has happened on the rare occurrence because of a mistake. The fellow asked, okay, whether you want a pizza. I said, yeah, we ordered. No problem, sir, I'll send it. Do you know where? Yeah, I know where to send it. I send it. So I was at office, and the fellow has delivered the pizza to home. Right? So that kind of things can happen, right? So you have to be mindful also when you use the their internal database. Right? So you can have more focused promotion. Now, for example, when I go with kids, they know that I have kids. So when there's a kid meal, they might send me a promotion. But if I don't have kids, they may not. Then location-based promotions, I explained it to you earlier also. When you pass a particular location, you get offers related to that location. For example, the moment you go passing a McDonald's, if there is a promotion, you get a SMS from McDonald's saying, hi McDonald's Callupiti, I have this offer. So now you are passing McDonald's Callupiti, or you are getting close to McDonald's Callupiti, you are getting that offer. Now you feel, okay, my God, now you feel tempted, right? You feel like, okay, I should go there and have it. Right? Similarly, now, as I told you, now, if you are a person who generally shop at House of Fashion, when you go passing House of Fashion, you get a SMS saying, okay, there is offer. Right? So likewise, based on the location that you go, they will trigger you certain promotions where they induce you, or basically persuade you to go for the purchase, right? So all these things, all these efforts are possible when you have a proper database, and you can, these are the things you can do, the little things. So some of the things you can do with your internal database, right? So this is, if you see, now this is not a myth or a kind of a fantasy. These things are happening in the world, and even in Sri Lanka, these are being used, right? So that is about the internal data, what you can do with internal data. The next one is market intelligence. Now, the market intelligence, if you really look at, it is the systematic collection and analysis of publicly available information. The publicly available information about marketing environment and the competitors. Now, this is again something that even you can do as a branch manager, or what your bank will do. Now, generally, the banks will go through all their competitors, the annual reports, right, and the publications, then the press releases. So they go through these information, and they try to track what the competitors are doing. They try to track what the competitors are doing, and then they will be able to find out what they should be doing, right? So you don't have to basically do research on this. You can sometimes go into the public sources also. For example, AC Nielsen Corporation, they publish data, right, and then the trends, right, and then there are so many other organization which provides data. Then even the government data, like the census and statistics, Central Bank of Sri Lanka publications. Now all these things will provide you data related to the market and the trends. So these information might help you to basically take some very effective decisions. Now, when it comes to tracking competitors, right? Now there has been several efforts from different companies in finding out information, but then sometimes you have crossed sometimes they have crossed their limits also. Even if you look at a case in the past, the Procter and Gamble, they found that some of their employees were basically getting to the it's called dumpster diving. they were getting into dustbins of Unilever organization in order to find basically some information about products, right? So they were like getting into this, and they were like, whatever that you throw out to the dustbin, it's been collected. And what the P&G employees have done is, then they have gone and got those information from the dustbin, and they have looked at what they have planned, how they have planned, all kind of things about the competitor and what they are going to do, because they have been writing and then throwing off the papers to the dustbins. So so much so that then the Procter and Gamble got to know about it, and they got really shocked, the top management, and they went and apologized, and then basically they coordinated with Unilever, apologizing for what they have done. So what they said is, they have not done anything illegal, right? There is no law to prevent it, but in terms of ethics, they have found that it is not right. So they have said that it is not right. So therefore, we don't want to do it. Right now, even another case is that Microsoft's Bill Gates, he came across some pages, the pages of Google, where they have advertised jobs, right? Where they have advertised jobs, and they were looking for engineers with backgrounds that has nothing to do with the web search business, because they were doing web search business, but apparently now they are looking at engineers who have nothing to do with web search business. So the Bill Gates was wondering why, and then he said to his employees, we have to watch this Google, because they will not search for engineers, basically the engineers who have nothing to do with web search, because the Google is all about web search engine. So if they are doing that, then that means they are going to come up with some other competing products, right? So that is another example, right? Yeah. So then even if you look at web sources, like there are a lot of other sources like Dow Jones, Census and Statistics, Central Bank site, Nielsen reports. Then there are a lot of other consultants who provide reports. So by going through these, you can basically gather a lot of intelligence about your competitors and the market trends. But most important factor is that you need to keep your ethical lines in place in doing that, not to do it in an unethical manner. Now, once you do those, why it is so important? Because the changes in the external environment pose always opportunities and challenges, right? Now, the changes in the behavior patterns. For example, I told you earlier, the people, when there is a higher trend that the people go for, both parents go for jobs, there is an opportunity for daycare centers. Now, if you can identify this trend early, then you can start a daycare before others start, so that you can have a first mover advantage, right? So then again, if you really look at the trends towards the beauty culture in the Europe, there is a trend that they move from beauty factor to wellness factor. So if you really pick this trend, then you might change your whole marketing effort to talk about wellness than beauty. Now, if you really look at certain websites, so for example, I was just going through that Janet website recently. They're not talking about too much about beauty; they're talking about wellness. So likewise, when you really look at external environment, you can find certain trends where you can take decisions quickly, right? And the legal changes, technology changes. As I told you earlier, Nokia, they were the first to understand about the touchscreen technology. Right? Their researchers found it, but apparently they didn't capitalize on that because they couldn't understand the consumer desires and the trends. So as a result of that, Apple was able to overtake them, where they had 50% of the market share some time back in the whole world market, right? So if you don't identify opportunities and threats, looking at the changes in the external environment early, then you may not get the advantage of capitalizing on opportunities or preventing threats. Then the other part is that you can improve your strategic decision making when you are clear about what's happening in the environment and about your competitors, because you know, okay, there is a change in the environment, therefore there is this opportunity, therefore there is this threat. So my strategies need to be devised based on that. And then you will also understand this is what my competitor is going to do, so that it's easy for you to create strategies. So market intelligence is very critical for any organization. And even as a branch manager or even as a bank, this is something that the banks really worry, really do, right? So they always keep track about the competition, about the environment in taking their decisions, right? Fine. So that's about marketing intelligence, where you have to look at the environment and your competitors. So how do you gather information? What are the things that you can do to gather information under market intelligence? You can rely on your internal employees, right? So basically you can talk to your sales team, your customer service team, and then your marketing team, right? And your bank staff, and ask them, okay, what are the trends? So they will tell you, there are customers who talk good about the service of this bank, or they are doing something different. Then they might tell you, okay, there are customers who are actually going to this bank because of this product and because we don't have this feature. So they give you feedback. Those feedback are very valuable and very accurate also, right? Rather than what you imagine in your mind, right? So you need to get this info, and even from the intermediaries, right? For example, if you are in the product marketing, your retailers, your distributors, and what they say, they are the people who get the feedback. They tell you, okay, see, this product is not moving, there is something wrong, your competitor is doing this, you are not doing. And so they will give you feedback. So internal employees, and then the suppliers, intermediaries. Then another simple thing is to look at the internet. Now that is also very important. So you can search in the internet and see what's happening in the world, right? What's happening in other parts of the world, right? How the banks are doing in Asia Pacific region, how the banks are doing in Europe region, what have they done, what are the new advancements they have done. So this is very important. Then industry trade shows. Now when you go to industry trade shows, you can find a lot of information about your customers, right? So you can go there about your competitors. So when you go there, your competitors will have their stalls, have their offers, and in one place you can find most of your competitors. So you can go to them, basically ask questions, look at their products, talk with them, maybe not as a competitive representative, but maybe as a mystery shopper, right? Where they don't know who you are, right? So in a trade show, you will be able to gather information about your competitors very easily, because they are trying to show their products in the trade show, and they are trying to market their products, so that you can gather what they are going to do, what they do right now, and what are their future plans. Then key customers. Now customers are critical information providers for you, right? So you can ask questions from them, have discussions from your key customers, especially the loyal customers. They will tell you what's happening in the market, what people are talking, what other customers are thinking. So those information will give you intelligence. Then you can also go through published competitor information, competitor leaflets, competitor websites, competitors' annual reports, right? So even looking at the annual report, you can gather a lot of information, right? Even looking at their leaflets, you can find out their product features. Going to their website, you can find what are the products, product features, what they offer, what are their promotions. Now it's very easy for you to basically gather information about the competitor, sometimes by going to the published sources. And in certain published documents, they make mistakes where they divulge their key strengths and strategic directions also. So those things will help you to basically adjust yourself to face the competition. Then competitive website, then even government databases where they compile information. For example, you can find information about the payment card industry by going and looking at the quarterly payment card bulletin publication by Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Or you can go to the Central Bank of Sri Lanka annual report and find out about the industry information. Right? Or you can go to Census and Statistics Department and get information. You can go to Export Development Board website and get information about different exports and markets, and even the competitors. Right? So likewise, these are some sources where you gather market intelligence. Right? So we talked about two things. First one is about internal data, and then market intelligence. The third and most important factor is marketing research. So this is an area we are going to talk a little more, right? What is research and what it is. So what I'll do is, now it's 10:04, so we'll, as our norm, we'll take a little bit of a break, and we'll come back to start this section on marketing research, right? So basically, we'll start the class again at 10:30. So by 10:30, you come. We will start the area of marketing research at that time. Fine. So we'll take a break and join again. Fine. So we have Gavin. Right. So we were talking about gathering information, and now we are moving into the area of research. Now, research, if you really look at, it's like shedding light to a darker room. Now, in a dark room, if you are asked to walk, then you don't know where the things are. So you might damage the equipments, the furniture, and you might fall and damage yourself. Right. So in a walking in a dark room is a very difficult task for you. You might still walk to the destination, but with lot of damages, maybe damaging your properties or damaging yourself with injuries, right? So when you go in a dark room without knowing anything, like you damage yourself falling and damage properties, when businesses go into the market without knowing the market exactly or understanding the consumers, they will also fall into trouble, right? Sometimes if they have a good fall, like in a very dangerous fall in a room, dark room, they might go out of the business also. So the business. Sometimes you might achieve your target, but then with a lot of injuries, lot of at a higher cost, right? Like the McDonald's did in India. Right? So they ultimately were able to establish themselves, but it was a costly mistake. So they had to spend a lot of money, and they have to incur a huge cost when they establish themselves there, right? So basically, if you really look at, when you go into the market without knowing about the market or the customers, you will either get out of the market or basically thrown away from the market very soon, or you achieve your target at a higher cost, right? So like when you go to a darker room, how about when you have a torch, right, where you can shed light? So if you have a torch or a candle, you'll be able to see what is around and walk carefully to the other side of the room without damaging property or yourself. Right? Similarly, when you are going into the market, the research is the candle or the torch which provides you light to understand the market and understand the consumers, so that when you walk through the market to achieve your goals, the cost of you doing mistakes will be less, right? And at the same time, the chances of you losing business will be less, right? So that is the value of research, where it provides you insights to unknown areas and allows you to do a more focused, more effective strategies, develop more effective strategies. Now, before we move on to talk about it, let me show you a success story of research, just a small story for you to understand how valuable the research are and how it can really help you to become more effective. Right? So let me share my screen. So I'm going to play you a YouTube video. Make sure that you see it and you hear it. And if you face a problem, please raise your voice and tell me that you can't hear and basically watch it, right? See it. Right. The first story is about Ostrom. Right. Now, when you look at Ostrom, Demo was the Ostrom is no more. I don't think it's in Sri Lanka right now, but sometime back this brand was there. It's a brand actually imported by Demo at that time, and basically considered as one of the very good quality products from Germany, right? So when they were trying to sell Ostrom bulbs, they found that majority of the people were not actually accepting it because it's little costlier than other CFL bulbs, right? So if you really look at this story, it says when the agency that did the research, they found in the CFL market, 70% of CFL were duplicate bulbs. So what is the importance of a CFL bulb to a consumer? It says the CFL bulb will save energy, right? And it will reduce your current bill, right? So that you can save money. Right? So for that to happen, the bulb should be a genuine CFL bulb. It should have the capacity actually to do what it says and save current. So when they analyzed the market, they found 70% of CFL bulbs were duplicate bulbs, actually which did not deliver the promised 80% power saving. Right? So if it is a genuine CFL bulb, it will save 80%. It will have a 80% power saving, which will have a huge impact on your current bill. But when you use fake bulbs, it will not give that power saving, right? So when they look at the market, they do when they did a research, they found 70% of the CFL bulbs were duplicate bulbs, and it was not delivering the 80% power saving what genuine CFL bulbs can do, right? So the duplicate bulbs or the inferior products were sold at a very low price compared to Ostrom, which is a genuine bulb, right? So because people wanted to save money, and also the normal consumers, they don't understand the difference between the genuine bulb and the real bulb, the fake bulbs, and what is the difference. They were not educated. They didn't really know about it. They were looking at every bulb is a CFL bulb, lower price we will take, right? Lower the price we will take. So they didn't understand this. So they were going for, they thought every CFL bulb in the market is same, and they were going for the lower price. So what they did, based on the insights they got through their research and market intelligence, they thought, okay, right, now let's develop an advertisement that will educate the customers about the difference between a genuine bulb and a fake bulb, and take the message to the market that fake bulbs are not delivering the promise of 80% power saving, and even though you put the bulbs as CFL, there will be no cost advantage for you. Right? So they wanted to drive this message. Now, to drive that message, they developed commercials using Corale Mahatya character, and they delivered the message to the market. So message was very simple, that Osram is a genuine bulb, is a quality bulb, and it will deliver its promise. It will help you to reduce your current bill. But by going for lower priced products which are fake bulbs, you will not have a reduction in your electricity bill. This is the message they wanted to give, and I'll show you the commercials also they played and how they have given that message to the market. So let's watch the commercial.
අනේ ආරච්චි මහත්තයෝ මම කෙල්ල විභාගයෙන් ෆේල් වෙලා. ඒකට මම කියන්නේ ලයිට් කපපු සුමන දාසයා. බල් පිසියසක්නිය හදපු CFL නෙමෙයි මෙයා දාලා දෙන්නේ. බිල වැඩි ඉතිකප්පු. බිල ලිව්වේ මේ දින ලියලා තියෙන මීටරයට අනුව. ජර්මන් තාක්ෂණයට අනුව හදපු CFL නෙමෙයි නේද පුතුනාලි විකුණේ? මේ සිමෙන් තමයි කිව්වේ CFL නෙ විකුණන්න කියලා.
ආරච්චි මහත්තයාගේ වලවට CFL දාලා තියෙන ඉතින් මං එහෙම කිව්වේ.
ඕදේෝ මම දැන් මේ ඔය ලොකු ව්‍යාපෘති වලටයි අහස සූරන මැදුර වලටයි දාන පහු වෙනකොට එළිය අඩු වෙන්නේ නැති ඔස්රම් CFL ඔස්රම් CFL විශේෂඥ අල්ලගන්නේ ඔස්රම්.
So that's one ad, and there's another one also.
අර මොකද අර හත් දෙයනේ මේ අපේ ලයිට් කියලා ලියන මහත්තයානේ මොන වැරද්දක් කළාටද මේ
මැනිකේ මම මුළු ගෙදරටම CFL දාලා තියෙද්දි මේ ඕදා ලියන ලයිට් බිලේ කිසිම අඩුවක් නැහැ. අමු හොරේ
මේ මහත්තයා හොරෙක් නෙමෙයි මම ඔහෙට කලින්ම කිව්වනේ ලාභ CFL දැම්මට ලයිට් බිල අඩු වෙන්නේ නැහැයි කියලා.
මම කිව්වා මැනිකේ කොහෙද? ඇත්තටම ලයිට් බිල අඩු කරගන්න නම් දාන්න ඔස්රම් CFL.
මතකනේ ඔස්රම්.
Right. So that is one advertisement, and if you really look at Osram, after this advertisement, their market went up, their demand went up into such level that the Germany couldn't supply enough lamps to meet the demand created with the campaign. Right. So they got a real good demand after they educated the customers and they established their position as a quality CFL bulb compared to competitors. So that is one strategy. One importance as to how the research and market intelligence has really helped them. Then there's another story. There are a lot of stories. Out of it, I'll talk to you about another story. That's about Rainco. If you really look at the Rainco, the nets, right? They again was losing their market share in the bed net market to cheap inferior imports from China, right? So they were losing market, and if you really look at tactical campaigns, very short term ones. Basically, you will try to counter it by showing something, giving discounts, so on and so forth. But instead of that, they opted to go to research, right, and marketing intelligence. So they went out to check what is really happening, right? So they found most people did not like using net when sleeping because they thought the nets were stuffy, warm, and quite flimsy. Right, therefore prone to tearing. Right, our client, that is the Rainco. However, they were producing specially manufactured products to overcome these issues that they have found in the Sri Lankan market. Right, so although they were doing it, most of the customers did not know the real difference between the products the Rainco has developed in a manner that it suits to the Sri Lankan market compared to the cheap Chinese products imported from China, where it was overtaking the market share. So then, based on the research finding, they were advised to use these unique attributes to convert non-users into users, right? So what happened is they came up with a dramatic advertisement where the children talks about it. So let's first look at the advertisement before we talk any further.
අපිරට අවුරුද්ද පුරාම අවුව ලැබෙන බැස්ස ලැබෙන නිවර්තන කලාපී ඇයි දරුවෝ මේ භාගයක් නෙති භාගයක් අසනවා
ඒ නිවර්තන කලාපී රට හතුරු ආක්‍රමණය කරලා
හතුරු
මදුරු නිදා ගන්න බෑ ටීචර්
ඇයි ඔයාලා මදුරු දැල් පාවිච්චි කරන්නේ නැද්ද
ප්‍රශ්නේ ටීචර් ගුලි ගහනවා ටීචර් එක ඉක්මනට ඉරනවනේ
දරුවෝ අපි පාවිච්චි කරන්න ඕනේ අපේ රටට ගැලපෙන ලංකාවට විශේෂයෙන්ම නිපදවන රේන්කෝ මදුරු දැල්
රේන්කෝ මදුරු දැල් සැනසෙල්ලේ නිදියන්නයි.
So what did they do? They addressed the key issues they found from their research, right? ළමයි කතා කරේ ඒක තමයි ඉරෙනවා ගුලි ගහනවා රස්නේ ඒ key issues අරගෙන they said okay මේ raincoat is a specially developed product for the Sri Lankan market, therefore you go for that, right? And it has more ventilation and kind of things like that compared to the cheap inferior imports that you see in the market at a lower cost. So what happened, if you really look at the results, this creative strategy helped the client to double their sales and hefty premium and with a hefty premium, and also earned them an award at the award as the most innovative brand of the year at the National Sales Conference, NASCO, organized by Slim, right? So that is the result. So what you just saw are two basically examples of how the research and market intelligence can really change or give a very effective result for an organization, right? So if not for research, general thing would be to do some advertisement. So they don't know whether the advertisement will really appeal or not, or they might just go and give some promotion, discounts, and try to win the market, where they will never win, right? So instead, they did a research, and based on the research, they developed the campaign, and that campaign really helped them to get the results they wanted. So that is the value of research, because research will help you to find out exactly what is going wrong, right? Exactly what is going wrong, and based on that, based on your identification of the problem and a gap in the market or the real need and wants of the customers, you will develop your products, you will develop your marketing campaigns, you will develop your market offers, right? And you will be able to capture clients easily. So that is the importance, right? Fine. So let's look at the definition of research. It says marketing research is the systematic gathering, recording, and analysis of data about problems related to the marketing of goods and services. Now, that is the definition given by the American Marketing Association. So if you really look at the definition given by Kotler and Armstrong, it says the systematic design, analysis, and reporting of data, organized. So let's take the first definition. The American Marketing Association. It says the systematic gathering. Systematic gathering. What is systematic gathering? Systematic gathering systematic gathering, recording, and analysis. තුනක් තියෙනවා එකක් තමයි you gather, right? එකතු කරනවා, record, ලේඛනගත කරනවා, and analyze, විශ්ලේෂණය කරනවා, right? So there is a special word called systematic. Systematic. In research, it's not something that you do like you have chats with people. මේසු දෙක නිකන් chat එකක් දාන එක නෙමෙයි research එක කියන්නේ. Research එක කියන්නේ යම් කිසි system එකකට process එකකට කරන දෙයක්. Right? So there are established patterns, plans, research plans and processes. එතකොට මගේ problem එක මොකක්ද? ඒක analyze කරලා problem එක understand කරලා ඊළඟට කොහොමද gather කරන්න කියලා decide කරලා මේ විදිහට යම්කිසි systematic විදිහකට ඒ කියන්නේ යම්කිසි පිළිවෙලකට යම්කිසි ක්‍රමවේදයකට අනුව right තමයි මේ data gather කරන්නේ right. එතකොට අපිට හිතෙන වෙලාවට ඔය කාගෙන් හරි අහගෙන එහෙම research කරන්න බෑ right. So it has to be done in a systematic manner. එතකොට මේ ක්‍රමවේදයකට අනුව නිශ්චිත ක්‍රමවේදයකට අනුව පිළිවෙලකට අනුව systematic gathering, so data රැස් කිරීම, recording වාර්තා කිරීම, analyzing විශ්ලේෂණය කිරීම right. of data දත්ත right. data දත්ත right. එතකොට මේ මොනවා ගැනද කතා කරන්නේ data ගැන. එතකොට පළවෙනි එක තමයි යම්කිසි ක්‍රමානුකූල පිළිවෙලකට අනුව දත්ත රැස් කිරීම, වාර්තා කිරීම, විශ්ලේෂණය කිරීම. මොනවා සම්බන්ධයෙන් දත්තද? About problems relating to marketing of goods and services. Right? තමන්ගේ භාණ්ඩ හා සේවා අලෙවිකරණය සම්බන්ධ ගැටලු පිළිබඳ. Right? So in a very simple sense, you have a problem in marketing your products and services, and what you do is you gather data related to your problem, about your problem in a systematic manner, you record it and you analyze it. Right. So if you look at Kotler's definition, the same thing, systematic design, right? ක්‍රමානුකූලව සකස් කරන ලද, නිර්මාණය කරන ලද. මොකක්ද? collection, රැස් කිරීම, analysis, මොකක්ද? විශ්ලේෂණය කිරීම and reporting, right? ඉදිරිපත් කිරීම, reporting of data relevant to a specific marketing situation. යම්කිසි සුවිශේෂ අලෙවිකරණ ගැටලුවක් සම්බන්ධයෙන් තත්ත්වයක් සම්බන්ධයෙන් දත්ත රැස් කිරීම, ඇනලයිස් කිරීම, වාර්තා කිරීම right තමයි ඔහු රිසර්ච් එකක් නේද. ඉතින් මේ විදිහට මේ රිසර්ච් එකේ ඩෙෆිනිෂන් එක දිහා බලපුවම අපිට පේනවා the research is a පළවෙනි එක තමයි it's not an informal thing. මේක ඇවිල්ලා මේ informal නිකන් මිනිස්සු එක්ක chat එකක් දාන එකක් නෙමෙයි. chat එකක් discussion එකක් that is completely different right. This is nothing to do with that, right? Chat discussion, having a conversation, this is nothing to do with that. This is a very systematic, formal exercise, right? Fine. So, then let's look at the advantages of research. Why research is so important? Now, we just saw one of the reasons. We just saw one of the reasons why research is so important. Done a research and developed a campaign where it has really given results, right? So first one is it improves marketers' ability to make right decisions. Because in a research you are going to find information. Why? Now for example, Osram example again. Now to market Osram bulbs, if they didn't have that information, how difficult would it have been? ප්‍රශ්න දිනා අපි දැන් මේ බල්බ් එක කොහොමද විකුණන්නේ? දැන් මේ සර්ගෙන මේක ගන්න බෑ, මේක ගාන වැඩි, ගාන අඩු කරමු එන. ඩිස්කවුන්ට් දෙමු. එකට එකක් ෆ්‍රී දෙමු. මේවා තමයි එතකොට එන්නේ. මේ අපිට සාමාන්‍යයෙන් හිතන දේවල්. නමුත් දැන් ඔයා මාකට් එකට ගිහලා බලපුවම තමයි තේරෙන්නේ. ඇයි මේක විකිනෙන්නේ නැත්තේ? මොකද්ද කරන්න ඕනේ? අපි කොහොමද වැඩේ මේ solution එකක් හොයන්නේ. Right? So එහෙම solutions වලට එනකොට after understanding the problem, when you come to solutions, your solutions are more accurate, more effective. So it improves marketers' ability to make right decisions. Second one, monitor and understand changing values and behaviors of customers. The make it again very critical. Right? So the make it there was this Montessori, which was a very good Montessori. And this case study, there was this Montessori which is doing really well, and they were a well established one. And when they were going on, they suddenly found that their intake is declining. So when that seats දෙන්න විදියක් නැහැ. ළමයි ඉන්න capacity එකකට වඩා application දෙනවා. නමුත් දැන් එන application ගාන ටික ටික අඩු වෙලා යනවා. Right? So ටික ටික අඩු වෙලා යනවා. And they found the parents come visit the Montessori and then they say okay we'll come back and they go and most of them don't return. So there were a lot of inquiries but very few sales. Very few sales, right? එතකොට දැන් මාන ප්‍රශ්නයක්. හොඳට establish වෙලා තිබ්බ Montessori මේ Montessori දැන් මිනිස්සු වෙනවා Montessori ගැන අහනවා හොඳ නමක් තියෙනවා Montessoriට අපි එන්නම් කියලා යනවා ආයෙ එන්නේ නැහැ. right? එතකොට දැන් sale එක අඩු වෙනවා. Now there's a problem. Right? Now they were doing a lot of changes. They initially thought it is something to do with the teachers. So they looked at the teachers and then they advised them and they changed some of the teachers, but nothing changed. Then they thought it is something to do with the interior or the physical evidence. So what they did is they refurbished the entire Montessori. They bought some very nice equipment and then it was completely refurbished, but nothing changed. Nothing changed. Right? No improvement. Sales were still declining. Now they thought it may be the price. They reduced the price to be in par with the rest of the Montessoris. Now earlier they had a premium because they had a big demand. But now they have reduced it and their prices are also very competitive compared to the market. But still, they didn't get a positive feedback. The sales were declining. Right? Now, big problem. Can anyone in the class guess what they have found in the research? Then after that, they did a research. They asked from certain parents who inquired from them and who didn't turn back. Montessori ගැන ඇහුවා now ළමයාව දැම්මේ නැහැ. So they spoke to them. They did a market research and then they found some very interesting insight. Can anyone think of what it is? Dishan, you have any idea what would have been the feedback they found?
No idea, sir. I can't think of anything.
Okay, so let's ask from Visista. Visista, do you have any idea what they have found?
Appearance of the nursery.
Appearance of the nursery. That is where they did the refurbishing, right? Any idea? No idea.
No idea.
We'll ask from gents also. Chaminda, any idea what they have found? Chaminda?
Teachers' experience. Who are the teachers teaching?
That is where they changed the teachers earlier. I told that they changed teachers. Fine. Okay. Right. So let's see. Chaturanga, do you have any idea what they have found?
Can think of one thing. I don't know whether it is correct, but sir, whenever a parent comes and put his or her kid there should be a place to wait till this Montessori is over. So I think there would have been a place where they can stay. Other places. That's what I think of. So in this particular area, they don't have a place to stay until this Montessori is over. I think that might be a case. I don't know.
Right. Good guess, Chaturang. Rangana, you have any guess? Rangana? You have any guess? What the reason? No guesses. Rajakaruna?
Yes, might be the surroundings. I mean, it's a noisy or sometimes it's a smelly, like sometimes like the surroundings, the environment issues or something like that. So otherwise, I agreed with that someone who told the daycare. I mean, the most of the people these days are very busy with the day-to-day work, so they have to pick their kids. I mean, after the working hours.
It's 11 o'clock.
So sometimes might be that's the reason because of that. So other than that, just I feel the surroundings like it's noisy. Maybe it's sometimes smelly, the bad smells or something like maybe the like the something like that.
Right. So you think most of it can be the environmental factors where the surrounding environment was not very conducive for the children, right? Fine. So good guesses, right? I'm very happy that all of you are awake. Gavin, you are there? Gavin?
Yes, sir.
Any idea that you have in your mind?
Actually, I was also thinking about the location, like the neighborhood, whether it's safe or something like that. Same, pretty
Right.
much the same.
So neighborhood and the environment, whether it was conducive, right? But then again, the case study I told you that it is a Montessori which had very high demand. So obviously it would have been in a neighborhood where it is, but things would have changed. Maybe some factory has come in where the sound is generated. Yeah, your thinking is also right. But I'm happy that two of you were able to talk about the research finding. So when they did the research, what they exactly found is what Chaturanga was talking about. They were a very old Montessori, traditional Montessori, but they didn't have the daycare facility with them. So earlier, they were very successful because the parents had time and their extended family, because the families were like big. They had their grandmother, grandfather, and most of the time the mother was not working. So all of them were there to pick the child at 11 o'clock from the Montessori, take the child home, right? And but over a period of time, when you look at the lifestyle changed. Most of the women started working, and the extended families became very small families where they didn't have many relations and big families. So by putting the child to the Montessori, picking the child at 11 o'clock was quite a challenge to most of the parents, right? So it's not the quality that or any other factor that they have considered, but when they inquired, they found that they really wanted to put their children into this particular Montessori, considering their reputation and the quality. However, they were helpless because there was no one to pick the child at 11 o'clock, and this Montessori did not have a daycare. So as a result of that, the parents were putting their children into other Montessoris which were built with their daycare facility, right? So then they found the real problem, and actually by the time they find the real problem, they have incurred so much cost to refurbish, to change teachers, to do this, that, all kind of things that they thought about. But when they found the real problem, they found, okay, nothing is going to help unless they set up a daycare facility. And after that, they set it up. After they set up the daycare facility, again, they got their business back, right? So this is one of the case studies that talks about the advantage of research and how the research helps you to understand changing values and behaviors of the customers when you are doing business. So if you don't understand the changes in the lifestyle and the behavior patterns of the customers, then sometimes if you continue to do what you do, you might not get the same results, because although you deliver the same product, the same offer, the consumer, the needs of the consumers have changed, right? So that is again a good case study that showed the value of research. And then the next one, identify strategies of competitors and to obtain competitive advantage, right? So basically in research that you do about the competitors, you do competitor research, so you will be able to identify what your competitors are planning to do. So based on that research, you will be able to identify what their future strategies and what are the things you should do to attack them. So basically, this is where you find their strengths, weaknesses, right? And at the same time, their future orientation, plans, and then counterattack with offers and different plans to block them actually grabbing your market share. Then the next factor is the research will help you to evaluate your organization current strategies and tactics effectively, because you may have developed certain strategies and tactics where it has actually helped you in the past, or perhaps you think that is going to help you today, but if you really look at the market, it may not, right? It may not. So to understand whether what you are doing is really accepted by the market and the market is responding to those positively, you need to do a research and identify. So this is where you do surveys like the customer satisfaction surveys, right? And gathering customer feedback about your products, processes, their experience, and so on and so forth, which will tell you whether what you are doing right now is accepted, right, or whether the customers want you to change, and also to see whether your strategies have really helped. The next one is identify changes in social, legal, political, and technological environment. Now you do research in order to find out what is going wrong and what are the new things that is getting developed. Now, for example, in the banking sector, you find that there are a lot of new developments in terms of technology, where the blockchain technology is being introduced, artificial intelligence is being introduced, data science has been introduced, and then the digitalization has been introduced. Fintech has become a competition. So there are a lot of things happening in the banking industry, in the external environment, right? So especially these days with regard to technology. So if the bank wants to compete and protect its market share, the bank needs to do research in these areas and see what is happening in the market and how they can adapt, right? If you really look at certain banks, they have identified it, and they were telling that the Silicon Valley guys are actually developing products to capture our market. Now that what they are talking about are fintechs, right? And as a result of that, they have also developed their digital arms in order to find out digital financial solutions to compete with the upcoming competition from the Silicon Valley, where they use data science, artificial intelligence, perhaps to give a loan within 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whereas a bank will take 24 hours or 48 hours to give a loan. And sometimes their predictions are more accurate because they will predict using the customer data, behavior patterns, and having a lot of information about the customer from various sources, whereas the bank may have to spend a lot of time and energy to do that. So what we think right now as our market can be captured by these technology giants very, very easily with new technology. So this changes what is happening and how you will react to those, and how you will basically develop products and what customers want. These are things that you need to find out through research. And if you find out through research, then you can develop your products to compete with them. Otherwise, you can't, because they do a lot of research in this area to counter with banks. So these are some of the advantages. So you can think of a lot of advantages from your side also, and talk about it. And let me hear from you. Have you all come across any incident where you all have done research and that has really helped you in the past? Can I know if you have any experience like the one that I talked about, the Montessori example? Do you all do research about, for example, if you are a branch manager, about your locality at least, what they really do, and then what are the changes, so on and so forth. Rangana, you'll be able to answer better being a branch manager.
Hello, can you hear me?
Rangana, have you come across some incidents where you have done some mini research and have found some advantage out of it about your locality, perhaps your competitors?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, it is actually it's sort of a research which it's not a complete research. Like when I was at a branch somewhere remote, which is surrounded by tea industry. So in order to grab the opportunities on these tea factories, for loans for tea factories and to canvas tea factories, I went through the records which are published by these tea brokers. Actually, tea brokers have a ranking list with them, which shows the average prices of factories, and actually there's a once a month there's a ranking published by the tea brokering company. So it is a out of that I selected the factories which are in the locality and who are having better averages and better it actually in that report the published by LCBL Lanka Commodity Brokers, it shows the quantity they produce and the price which was sold at auctions and so forth. So it was a very good indication to identify because I was new to the area. Many of the factories did not have any banking relationship with us. So in order to start canvassing or to get to know the better factories, because some factories, even though there are factories, some tea factories are on the lower side of the list. So it was a small level research which I did when canvassing customers at that branch.
Very good insight, Rangana. That actually shows how you have done research to target customers, right? So rather than you going to all the prospective customers and wasting your time, you have targeted some good customers, profitable customers, and you have approached them. Your effort and time has more value in approaching such a profitable client rather than going to all the clients who may not give you the similar amount of profits. So it's a good insight, a good example of targeting customers through the information that you have gathered through your marketing intelligence or the research. Right, good one. Very nice. So now, since I have been talking all this time, and we are moving to the next level where the research process. Before I move, Anuradha, you are there?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Anuradha, what is your view about all what we discussed? Do you have any experience about marketing information and how it has helped you?
Yes, sir. I think that something came to my mind that based on research and collecting information. One time I was in the branch as spawning officer, and even we have more remote villages nearby. The only people in the town came from pawning business, but not the villagers. And we made several inquiries and collected sample information from visiting the villages and their several societies. And I mean that Gram Nilodari, through Gram Nilodari, and sometimes thrift societies which were occurred at the village, but they sometimes the villagers are having lack of information on the security. They fear to pawn their keeping their jewelries in out of their house because they felt that it's not safe. There's no home like safe in the banks. I mean that this is 3 or 4 years back, the experience. But then we informed them and educated them that if there is any financial requirement or need requirement, as a bank, as a government bank, we have that security, and you have a home like safe in the bank and come for us. Even we have low interest rates or competitive advance amounts. That feeling was there. They're reluctant to come to the bank because of that lack of safeness that they feel at their side. Then the other after that information spread to the villagers, and we personally gave them information and awareness programs or the mini promotions. Our pony nuggets increased gradually, and then other than that, they not only restrict to the pawning and then the villagers can play other financial services too. And that simple research collections.
You find the key problem is knowledge, right? Knowledge gap.
Yeah.
Very, very good one. Nice case study. And this reminds me about another research done by a particular bank. This bank was able to double their pawning portfolio. So this is actually long time back. They did a research and they found the biggest worry of the customers when it comes to banks. They don't want to come to the bank and basically for everyone to see that they are pawning their articles. Right? So the privacy was a key issue at that time. So they were able to go into more private place kind of a thing where the pawning area was covered and nobody knew who is inside, and to provide that privacy. Also, there was the concern about how they assess the jewelry, because those days are gale gana gila me jewelry ka galaka atullala acid dala තමයි බලන්නේ real gold da කියලා. So people really didn't like it, but the banks had the other methodology where they use technology instead of the old method where they use that rubbing on a stone and then putting some acid and looking at it. I think they found Edeka as a very important two things, and they developed a campaign where they talked about it. They were talking to them that gale ganne maker me රත්තරම් බඩු නාස්ති වෙන්නේ දෙක ඔයගලන්ට රහස්‍ය බව තියෙනවා. Then third factor they talked about what they found in the research, that the people really value the safety of their articles. So they said මේ ඔබගේ අර වටිනා රන් භාණ්ඩ සුරක්ෂිතභාවය, right? So they ran a campaign, and even their advertisements, they didn't have a like saying pawning come and kind of very aggressive advertisements. They had advertisements like someone is රහසෙන් කියනවා වගේ. ඔයා දන්නවද මේ බැංකුවේ මේක තියෙනවා රහසක් කියනවා වගේ තමයි tone එක හැදුවේ. And they advertised, and they found that there was a big demand created, and then rest is history. They were able to actually double their pawning portfolio. So this is where they have done the campaign based on research rather than just doing an advertisement, right? So good insight, Anuradha. So I recalled that example when you were talking about how you all have approached to improve your pawning portfolio. Chaminda, any experience with you on research and market intelligence, or kind of market information, and how it has helped you? Chaminda?
Yes, sir. Yes, I can recall the pawning marketing program also. When about 15 years ago, People's Bank and we are the one of pioneers in pawning market. Due to some reasons, especially in marketing issues, how to analyzing the data and how to customer behave, we lose the market. Those time we have good pony market. Now we lost the market, and again we are trying to capture the market. Doing some certain experiments and marketing research.
So I think if you really do the research, then you will be able to find out why you lost the market and also how you can gain the market again.
Yes, sir.
Chaturanga, do you have any experience with research and advantages?
Actually, sir, in the recent part in our bank, there was no such research done, but I can remember there was a campaign, there was a process where we wanted to introduce one retail personal loan product. So basically, since our bank is not into personal segment in a high manner, so we wanted to have an attractive personal loan product where we can increase the number of retail customers. So I think we went for some marketing agency or some research firm, so we got certain information from them, because I was directly not involved in that, since I'm coming from the corporate center, because one of my managers only handled that. So since he handled that, we knew certain stuff. So somehow we after some time we managed to develop one product, and it was marketed through social media without making much expenses or marketing expenses. So we could do that without much expenses, but it was very helpful, and we got big number of applicants. So that's what I can think of sir, from when it comes to our bank.
Right. Okay, Chaturanga. Dilshani?
So my experience was it was also some research done by our organization. So what we figured out when we did some research was that a lot of people were not aware about the other investment opportunities in the market, such as one thing we promote from our bank is unit trusts. So a lot of most people are aware of fixed deposits, but not about unit trusts. So then and they were not specifically like only like a few people, like it was like most people who are like Kamalambu based and all, they were the people who are aware about this and invested in our unit trusts. So then what we did was we did that research, and we recognized that, and that we have to go among the people and like create more awareness regarding those products. So then after that we ran a big campaign where we marketed the unit trust during these cricket matches which was held in Sri Lanka. After that, actually, it increased the people who were inquiring about unit trust. It increased our client base. A lot of people started calling and asking like, what are unit trusts, how do we make the investment, what are the rates and everything. So it was that was actually very successful. Yeah. So you're muted.
Yeah. You saw the cricket matches as a good event to market your product, is it?
Yeah, because a lot of people watched it, like not just people who are based in Colombo, but people outside Colombo, and then like even our branches had a lot of inquiries coming in from people who watched it, and like even like the senior management had calls coming in from friends and asking them, this is where you work, so what is this unit trust, because we displayed our interest rates, which is kind a bit higher than what fixed deposits usually offer. So this actually enabled us to get a lot of customers, and like break out of that thing where only a few people were aware about the product.
So Deshani, now even if you look at the market today,
Yeah.
a lot of people are not aware of unit trust,
Yeah.
right? Have you all found in a research what are the reasons, like why people don't invest? Is it just because they don't lack knowledge or any other reason?
I think that's one of the main reasons, because the lack of financial literacy in Sri Lanka. Like, so even when it comes to my family, like when we look at our parents' generation, what they think the ideal thing to invest if they get a lot of money is in fixed deposits. They don't look at, they don't know, they basically don't know that there are other opportunities out there, like unit trusts or even like treasury bills and bonds. They don't know about those.
So lack of financial literacy.
Literacy, yeah.
So
Mostly people who like have companies, or like they have like we do certain we have certain wealth management clients as well. So those customers, we we let them know there are opportunities like this as well, and those are the people who are like aware of it.
So basically, if you address that gap, you'll be able to do much better.
Yeah.
What is the rate difference in a unit trust and FD, Dishan?
So right now there's about there's like a 3% difference.
So 3% is the additional gain they will get.
Yeah. And like so it when the market rates keep increasing, the unit trust rates keep increasing as well, because right now it's increased. So usually it goes about 2% or 3% higher than what the FD rates are offering.
What the FD rates.
Yeah.
So despite
I'm saying based on the money market fund, not there are other unit trusts as well.
Yeah, I know. So there are different types. No? So basically what you are talking about is the high risk funds, right? They talk about stock market investments.
Yeah.
So I think that is one thing that you are thinking is that it is lack of awareness. The other factor may be that they have the fear to deal with a unit trust over a bank because they are not familiar with unit trust concept and the organization and then the trust kind of things like that. So there are so it's an interesting area for you to conduct a research as to why the people are not coming, and sometimes if you get a finding and give it to your company and make a difference, it can really help you. Thank you, Nisha.
So one of our funds, they don't actually invest in risky securities. They invest only in government securities. So we can like, so that we can maintain that, we can reduce the risk, and we can always maintain that thing where we can give it back to our customers in the case of a need. So there are funds that do invest in risky securities, and we sell that to our customers. So like the rate can go up and down. But then there are ones that only where the rate goes up, like you will never lose your capital, because those instruments, they are reinvesting only in risk free, basically, which is treasury bills and bond instruments.
That's true. Yeah, it's a very good product. I think there's a huge gap. The people are not really looking at unit trust as option.
Yeah, I think banks are also now offering certain funds like money market funds from Sampath Bank and all.
Yeah. I think NDB also has it. What they do is they offer money market account, right? So you have to have minimum investment and go there. But unit trust is a different concept where you allow buy and sell your units with your organization, or you allow it among investors also with the secondary market.
No, just our organization.
So it's a closed one, right?
Closed one.
So you have to purchase the units from your organization and sell it back to you itself. And but in Sri Lanka, you have unit trust where the investors can sell among them, right?
I'm not sure about that, sir. But far as my knowledge, it's mostly closed ones. Closed.
Right. So
repos and all you can trade in the secondary market. Repos and reverse repos, those can be traded in the secondary market.
You don't use
units, I'm not sure.
Right? And then basically, you publish unit value every every day or quarterly, or how do you do that?
Unit value. So I think the SEC has a thing where we have to publish our financials. So every month we have to provide our returns, basically from the funds.
There will be a capital gain on unit.
Excuse me, sir, I didn't catch that.
is there a capital gain also in units?
Yeah, there's a capital gain as well.
So if you buy unit today at a particular price and hold it for some time, apart from what you give as return, there will be a capital gain also.
Yeah.
So your returns you give annually, is it?
No, like so returns as in it's calculated on a daily basis. The gains are added to the investment on a daily basis. So whenever the customer wants to
It's
redeem it,
11:30.
so it goes along with the investment. So it's like it keeps on building in your account when you open an account.
Okay, so that what happens is your fund is not a fund where you give the return in cash terms, but where the value is accumulated, right?
Yeah, so that accumulation is showed via the unit price, because your unit price always keeps increasing. That is the interest accumulated to your investment, but you can't ever you can't use the initial investment.
Return can be taken when there is a buy sell happens, right?
Yeah,
as a capital gain, right?
Capital.
So it's an interesting area where you can actually find a lot of opportunities with the declining interest rates. So I think good area of research. So you have a very good area where you can do a research at a future study. Thank you, Deshan, for sharing it. Gavin, you have any experience with research and how it has helped you, where you can talk about the advantages?
Nothing in particular right now, sir. I don't think I have anything in my mind right now.
Rajakarna spoke. Rajakarna, you didn't speak. Rangan spoke. Rajakarna, you have anything to share?
Yeah, actually, that is the research and the data collection mainly done by the marketing department. So just I can say some. There's a small experience which I had 12 years ago. There's a newly branch was opened in the remote area. So those days, not like these days, so it is very difficult to find the customer database or the trade associations like that. So no any publication, especially those 12 years ago, and it is very difficult to find those the data. So that I can remember there was the annual gathering in trade association in those area. So they had a they had a small function at somewhere a hotel, and they wanted to sponsor that event, and we sponsored with the raffle draw actually. So there were 75 traders gathered to that event, and the raffle draw means that if someone who present the event, so he had to put I mean there is a small token, then you have to put the name and contact details and the business type. So then we will introduce that the raffle draw, and we gathered more than 50 collection. I mean the data about the customers who are which area that is doing the business, and the contact details and address and everything. Then so it actually that is we had that raffle draw, and we selected the particular customer, and according to the first, second, and third prices. But from that event, so we have gathered the valuable data. So in the area, so then after that we can contact those customers in order to the requirements and everything. That's the simple the experience which I had.
Thank you for sharing that. Visista, you have any experience? You are from a different locality.
Earlier, we didn't have a microfinance department in our branch. Then we did the feasibility study and all, and we thought there is a very big potential for microfinance sector. And we requested the head office, and we had one microfinance officer and fixed the department in our branch. And then after that, we got lot of microfinance loans and deposits. Now microfinance is our big base.
Right. So so I think based on your research, you saw the gap, and then you were able to change your business model.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you, Visista. So I think all of you have come up with experiences. What I wanted to really tell you is the research actually gives you a lot of understanding as to how you should develop your strategies. So you show that when you do a research, you get a lot of knowledge and you identify gaps. Now, in marketing, the most critical thing is to identify gaps. And when you identify gaps, unserved areas of needs, then you find innovation, then you find creativity, and then you find lucrative opportunities. So very simple things can also happen. Now, for example, you really look at milk, the liquid milk market. Earlier, you had liquid milk where you have to keep it in a fridge. You don't keep the liquid milk in the fridge, you can't use. Now that is a problem, because although there are fridges in certain houses, there are a lot of houses, a lot of people in boardings and very different places where they don't have fridges. Right? So how can they use liquid milk? So there's a problem. So that is a big gap we saw some time back when it comes to promoting liquid milk. And what happened is the innovation came and they introduced the Tetra Paks. So now you can keep it even without putting into the fridge until you open the packet. So that actually revolutionized the whole thing, gave a lot of opportunities for others also to patronize liquid milk. Right? So it's just an observation of the gap and addressing the gap that really supported. So basically, likewise, when you really look at the market, it just when you really look around you, you will find a lot of opportunities, gaps, and when you do research, you find a lot of opportunities, gaps. So make it a little bit of a habit of you. Right? You don't have to be the bank's market research team to do research. Right? You can do by your own, to identify gaps in your local area, to identify why certain issues are happening, why your profits are declining, why people are not coming for deposits, what are their real needs, right? What are the changes? Now, these are not something that you have to do as a research arm of the bank, but even as a branch manager, even as just a small officer at the initial level, you can still conduct mini researches. And remember, when you do those, the knowledge that you get and the approach and the strategies that you develop will be completely different from others. So there will be a difference in your approach compared to others where they talk things without knowing facts and information, and where you will talk a lot of sense based on facts and information. So that is the value. So I would like to leave that thought with you. Continuously get engaged with mini research, market intelligence. So those are areas where you can develop yourself and basically portray yourself as different from others in the bank. Right. Right. So let's go to the marketing research. I think there is a change that you need to do onto the topic. Stages of marketing research, right? So you have to change the topic. Sorry, there was a mistake. So just change the topic. So what are the stages of marketing research? First stage is defining the problem and research objective. Second stage, developing the research plan for collecting information. Third stage, implementing the research plan and collecting, analyzing data. Fourth stage, interpreting and reporting the findings. So let's look at one by one. The first one is defining the problem and research objectives. Right? So remember, manager knows the problem well, researcher knows how to do the research well. Right? So researcher and manager are coming from two different backgrounds. Right? So the researcher knows about research and how to do the research well, and the manager knows exactly what is the problem he's facing. So in finding out what the real problem is, both the researcher and the manager should work together to understand what the real problem is. What the real problem is, right? And then agree on research objectives. Now, research objectives are what you are trying to achieve by conducting a research, right? So basically, why you do this, right? Why you do this, for what and why, right? So what is your problem and why you should do this research to find out what, right? And it's very important. The problem statement and the research objectives are placed in writing. Then you will not get derailed at the middle of the research. Otherwise, when you go on conducting, you might go into totally a different area where you will discover something totally different and the problem will still remain. So therefore, very importantly, when you take a researcher or hire a research firm or appoint a person to do the research, both the management and the research team has to come to a conclusion as to what their research objectives are, what their research problem is, and then document it in writing to refer back during the research and afterwards, and to see whether they have exactly found the answers to the problem they have identified and whether they have achieved the research objectives, right? So that is very important to do as the first step. Then the second step that you need to do is to develop a research plan for collecting information. Now, mind you, I'm not going to do a very detailed lecture on research for you, because it's not our objective. Our objective is to see how research can really help us on CRM platforms. But it's very important that you know the research process at least in a basic level, so that you know what to do, right? And how it is happening. So the first one is to identify the problems and basically establish research problem and the research objective. Second stage is to collect information, right? So the research plan should outline the resources or basically sources of existing data and your research approach, right? Your research approach. In the plan, first one is identifying or basically outlining sources of existing data and research approach, whether you are going to do an observational research, whether you are going to do a survey research, so on and so forth. Then the second one is to establish the contact methods. Excuse me. Excuse me, please. Right. Sorry about it. So the research plan should outline the data sources, existing data, and research approach. Whether you go for observational research, whether you go for survey research, etc. And then the second is to decide on contact methods. Now this is I'm talking about the steps in the plan. But first one, sources and the research approach. The second one, contact methods, right? Then sampling plans, then research instruments, right? As to how you gather data, right? Then the third one that you need to remember is that you need to convert research objectives into specific information needs, right? And it's very important that you basically present the research plan as a written proposal. Now that is for you to get the consensus of the management as to what you are going to do, because it's very important that you do this at the beginning and get their consent, because then the entire organization and you are very clear as to what you are doing, right? So the management is also very clear what you are doing and what you are trying to discover, right? Then also your research plan should determine whether you will go for primary research or secondary research. Very simply, whether you need primary data or secondary data, right? Now that we use the words, two technical words, primary data and the secondary data, it's important that we understand the difference, which is this is a very common word used in research. The first one is primary data. Now, primary data, is now when you say primary, it's like first, right? Where you go first. Similarly, now these data are not available anywhere. Now you have a problem, you have a specific purpose, so you do a research and you gather information. So actually you collect data to address the specific problem in hand, and these data is not there in any other place. So you're going to find out those first, right? You're going to find out those first, and it's very unique to your purpose, and you have to exert effort, time, money, and then develop a plan and gather these data, right? So we call this data as data collected for a specific purpose, especially through field research, right? By going out and asking from people. Now, this is actually very unique for you, and they have a lot of advantages, and there are disadvantages also, which we can talk about it later. But for your information, primary data is unique. It's for a specific purpose, and you have collected it through a field research. Then the second type is secondary data. The secondary data, as the word says, that is data that you use for second time or after, right? So secondary data refers to the off-the-shelf information. That means these information has been collected, or the data has been collected by another person for some other purpose in the past, and it is available, and you are going to now look at those data which is already available, found by someone for some other purpose, and then see how to use it for your purpose, right? Now, how do you do this? You basically use desk research for that. Now, desk research itself, desk, right? So basically, what you do with the desk, you read things, you go for internet, right? Kind of things like that. So basically, this is where you go for the existing available information sources to get available information in the desk research, right? So you might go to the library and find it out. You might go to a research reservoir and then get those. You might get into the internet and search for data, right? You will read books, magazines, articles, research papers, and gather data, right? But remember, this has nothing to do with your specific purpose, but it is related. For example, you want to know about the key key important buying the important factors that will influence the buying decision of an insurance company in Sri Lanka. Right now, you are in a company and you are trying to find out what are the most influential factors that will influence the buying decision of an insurance policy. Now, you might go and search this in the internet. You might read research papers. You may not find exactly something related to your company or Sri Lanka, but you may find the influencing factors in India, influencing factors in Pakistan, or influencing factors in UK, USA, some other person where he has done. Or even in Sri Lanka, maybe that you are talking about Colombo, but somebody has done a research in outstation. So somebody who has actually done similar research also. Somebody who has done a very similar research. It's already available, right? So maybe he has done it 2 years back, 3 years back, you don't know, but it's available. So some information that you will search, that you require for your problem, but it is what is available, okay? What is available, right? So this is very easy and less costly, right? But it has its own pros and cons. So if you really look at the advantages of secondary data, where you can easily find out, simply you can say that access to this data is very easy. You can just go to a library, go to the internet and access data, and with the internet it has become very easy now. Then the cost is low. You don't have to do field research, spend time and money. It's very easily you can source data. Third factor, it saves time, right? You don't have to spend a lot of time collecting questionnaires, having discussions, so on and so forth. Easily you can find out. Right? So the next factor is that you don't need too much of expertise. Now, to conduct a research, you need some expertise in terms of how to conduct research, statistical analysis, so on and so forth. Because you and I can't conduct researches without experience and required knowledge. Right? So therefore, sometimes you need to hire expertise or experts in research to conduct research regarding your problems, right? But in a secondary data collection, you don't need expertise. Anybody can go and refer and find data from internet, libraries, papers, articles, so on and so forth. And at the same time, when it comes to secondary data, you have multiple sources, and you can find out information related to a problem by going to the websites, blogs, and then from the books, magazines, papers, research articles, research papers, so on and so forth, and then by looking at interviews. So you have a lot of variety of sources where you can gather information related to a problem, right? And you can basically verify also, right? So what you get from a particular source, whether it is true or not, you can verify with some other sources. So if you have found it from the internet, you may verify it with books and papers. If you have found it from the books and papers, you may verify it with the internet search, right? So you can have multiple sources, and gathering data is very easy and is less time consuming. Now, having said that, you also find certain drawbacks in secondary research. Secondary data may not be available for a specific problem in hand. For example, the previous example we took, that you want to find key influencing factors that influences the buying decision of an insurance policy in Sri Lanka. So you might find research done in India, UK, Pakistan, USA, but you may not find any research done in Sri Lanka. Now there is a problem. Now there's a problem because whatever that information that you get relates to some other geographical market, some other context. So the same will not be applicable in Sri Lanka. For example, our US customer or a UK customer looks at an insurance policy, and what drives them to buy an insurance may be completely different from what a Sri Lankan person is looking and what will influence a Sri Lankan person. So you have data, related data, but it is not actually specifically for your problem in hand. All right. So it may not be relevant also. It may not be relevant. It is not something for you to apply for your problem. So there will be issues in terms of whether there will be data specifically for your problem. For example, if you are talking about insurance law, there may be no research done on that area, but maybe research done on savings products. So there can be sometimes a vacuum. There's no research, no data. Or it can be that you have data, but it's not relevant. Right? So these two problems, non-availability and not relevance, not relevant, right? Less relevance, right? Then sometimes the collected information may be outdated. Actually, I did a research for my MBA on brand choice behavior of credit cards in Sri Lankan market, right? Of Sri Lankan consumers. But I have done that in 2010. Now, from 2010 to 2021, 11 years have gone. So if I take my research, which I have done 2010, 11 years back, and try to apply the findings of that research now, it may not be really valid, because that may be valid at that time to the context of the market at that in 2010, but it may not be valid for the market in 2021. So there can be information, but they are outdated or redundant. Then the next factor can be there is no assurance on the accuracy, quality of secondary data. Now, you don't know how the secondary data has been collected. Now, I have seen some fellows who are actually doing research, and what they do is they say that they have interviewed 50 customers, but what they actually do is they interview about 10 customers, and they themselves do the rest of the 40 questionnaires. And they say to their friends, Madam, and they say 50 customers interview. But actually they have not collected from 50 customers, they have collected only 10, and they have actually used their own thinking and basically multiplied whatever that they have found and manipulated. So data is not really accurate. So when you go for secondary research, one of the key problem is the accuracy of data or the quality of secondary data, whether this research has actually been done in a proper manner, in a credible manner, the integrity. Right? So sometimes if they have done a research for the sake of doing, just to pass an exam or get a title, or they have not followed the correct method, then when you try to implement or use those data for your decision making, you might get into trouble. The other thing is data can be biased, right? So there can be you don't know who did this research. Sometimes the person who has done the research may be politically biased or religiously biased or racial, so that his findings are more biased towards a particular area, and he may have not looked at the other side of the coin. So when you work on those data, your decisions may not be very accurate. The final factor is that when you go for secondary data and try to develop your strategies, you will not get any competitive advantage, because as much as you can find that data, your competitors also can find those data, right? So they will also have that insight. So there is no advantage you have, right? But if you have done a primary research or basically survey research where the data is so unique to you, then there is a competitive advantage. So you know something that the competitor will have no access. But when it comes to secondary data, that advantage is not there. Your competitor also can have access to what you have access. Right. So if you really look at the primary data, advantages and disadvantages. So I think basically the first three factors were like more towards advantages, and the second factors were more towards the disadvantages, right? So let me change the color for easy reference, right? So the first one is it's more relevant and specific because you are conducting a research for a problem that you already have, and that whole research is about your problem. And what you gather,
It's 12 o'clock.
the information you gather is very specific and relevant to what you want to find out. So it can really help you. The second factor is it's more reliable and accurate because you are doing it. So you know how you have collected it, right? So there is nothing for you to worry because you exactly know how you collected it and how reliable and accurate the data are. So you have more confidence on your findings, on the data or information. Third factor is that you have high control over integrity and quality, right? So when you conduct the research, you know what methodologies to be used, how to conduct, how to find out data, and it's very, you can have a lot of confidence on the research that you have done yourself rather than the data or the information found from a researcher where you have no idea or control over. Then if you look at the disadvantages, then when you take primary research or field research, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time because you need to collect, you need to develop a research plan, and then you need to collect information, you need to record it, you need to analyze using statistical methods, and then you have to spend time to come to conclusions. So it takes a lot of time. Gathering data itself, getting questionnaires filled and getting data is a gigantic task. So it's costly because you have to put a lot of money to develop questionnaires, gather data, hire expertise, and it's very time consuming. So sometimes by the time you finish the research, the advantage is gone. The opportunity is grabbed by someone else. So it may not work. The second factor is that you need expertise. Now you and I, although we want to do research, we are not experts. We don't know how to develop a questionnaire even that will help to do the statistical analysis. I have come across certain students, they have developed a questionnaire, they have collected data, and when they come to statistical analysis, none of the methods can be used because they have not designed their questionnaire to suit any of the statistical methods. So even developing a questionnaire is an expertise thing. You need to have expertise both on developing questions and statistical aspects. Otherwise, you can't. So you need expertise to collect primary data and do field research. The final factor is when you take, this is an advantage. If you really look at, again, an advantage side, the findings are unique and it will provide you competitive advantage, right? So I have to take this up. It will provide a competitive advantage, right? We do it. So basically, if you really look at advantages and disadvantages, you can talk about those in this way, right? So based on the problem you have, as we have discussed at the outset, based on the importance of information that you are searching for and the gravity of the problem that you have and your understanding of the value that can be generated by resolving the problem by doing a research, you have to decide whether you will go for a secondary research or a primary research, right? Considering this, basically field research or desk research, considering the pros and cons, right? Benefits and disadvantages right? So when you look at the collection of primary data, you have field research. Collection of secondary data, you have desk research. So remember these technical terms: primary data, field research, secondary data, desk research. Right. Now let's say that you have, if it is secondary research, nothing much, right? Secondary research, basically, you can think about it and then do a search. But if you're going for a primary data collection and if you're conducting a field research, then you need to decide on certain key things in conducting such a field research, right? So in a overview level, you really look at the things that you have to do. First one is that you need to decide what is your approach, whether you will go for a observational research, a survey research, or an experiment, right? So we'll discuss it later. Then you have to decide what are the contact methods, whether you will use mail, telephone, personal interviews, or online methods. Third, you need to decide on the sampling plan, right? So how you are going to have a representative sample, what is your population, and then what is the sampling method you are going to follow, right? So we'll discuss it again later. Then finally, you need to decide on research instruments. So there are various research instruments to collect data, such as questionnaires and mechanical devices, and under those several subsegments. So you have to decide what research instrument you're going to use, right? So now in the rest of the part, we will look at one by one about these different things or the decisions that you have to take: a research approach, contact methods, sampling plan, and the research instruments. Now, when it comes to research approach, there are three approaches you can take: the observational approach, experimental research, and survey research. Now, when you take observational research, the observational research, give me a second, let me have something to show it to you.
Hey, if you're constantly struggling to find leads, prospects, and clients for your business, you may want to watch this.
Is a tiny emoticon.
Right. So before I go to this part, because this is again is a long journey that we are going to go, we have to discuss all these things. I would like to show you a very interesting video about neuromarketing. Now, this is the latest trend in marketing, where they use data analytics, artificial intelligence, and technology to approach clients. And something that all marketers into CRM should learn and should be familiar with. So I think you will get bored if I go on and on. So we can keep the rest of the part there. And I would like to show you this very interesting video clip which talks about neuromarketing. So try to observe it and grab the things that he tries to say. Now, this is the future. This is how the future organizations are going to approach customer relationships. So let me sign out from the presentation and share my screen for you to see the video clip. Give me a second. Right. Can all of you see and hear? I just displayed it. Video clip එක පේනවා ඇහෙනවා නේද කට්ටියට? ඉස්සෙල්ලාම දැම්මේද?
Not really, sir.
Now let me play the video. Tell me whether you clearly hear it. I will ask the question again. Did you hear and can you see?
Yes, he here.
All clear, right?
Yes.
Can I continue playing?
About 20 years ago, a group of researchers did a study at a wine store. They want to find out if store's background music could influence shoppers' wine selections. Here's what they found. On the days when they play German music, German wines also French wines by 3-1. And on the days when they play French music, French wines also German wines by 3-1. But here's the kicker. They asked shoppers if the background music influenced their wine selections. You probably could guess. Over 90% of shoppers say no. This study shows that our buying decisions can be influenced by something so subtle that we don't even notice. The study also raises some important questions. How do we make buying decisions? Do we make decisions consciously based on facts, reason, and logic? Or do we make decisions unconsciously based on emotions, feelings, and intuition? Next, I'd like to share with you how our unconscious emotions influence our decisions. You remember New Coke? Here's the story behind New Coke. In 1985, Coca-Cola was losing market share to Pepsi. Pepsi had been taunting Coca-Cola by claiming that in blind taste testing, more people preferred Pepsi over Coke. Coca-Cola decided to improve the taste by changing its formula. It came up with New Coke. Over 200,000 people taste tested New Coke. Over 1 million people preferred New Coke over the original Coke. But more importantly, people prefer New Coke over Pepsi. With a lot of confidence, Coca-Cola rolled out New Coke. But very quickly, this sweet drink turned into a bitter pill that cost Coca-Cola tens of millions of dollars. Angry customers started protesting around the country, demanding the original Coke back. Anxious customers start hoarding Coke products left on store shelves. Coca-Cola headquarters received about 8,000 angry phone calls a day. You can't help asking, how could 200,000 people get it wrong? What did Coca-Cola miss? What Coca-Cola missed was a strong emotional connection people had. For nearly 100 years, Coke had been marketed as a feel-good product. Their marketing slogans included, have a Coke and a smile. I'd like to buy the world a Coke. Celebrities like Elvis, Marilyn Monroe, and the Beatles were the face of Coca-Cola. If you don't feel well, have a Coke. Coke was more than a sweet beverage. Drinking Coke had become a feel-good experience. That feel-good experience involves thoughts, feelings, and memories. Well, drinking Coke seems a bit complicated, doesn't it? The study published in 2004 shows how Coca-Cola's marketing has imprinted our brains with good thoughts, feelings, and memories. In this study, volunteers were asked to drink either Coke or Pepsi while their brains were scanned to find out which part of the brain became active. The researchers started out with blind taste testing like the Pepsi challenge. They were able to replicate the result of the Pepsi challenge. That is, slightly over 50% of volunteers preferred Pepsi over Coke. No surprise there. Then the researchers made a slight change to the Pepsi challenge. The volunteers were told exactly what they're going to drink before taking a sip. It's no longer blind taste test anymore. Suddenly, 75% of volunteers preferred Coke over Pepsi. More surprisingly, while they're drinking Coke, the emotional part of the brain, the memory part of the brain, and the thinking part of the brain became very active. In sharp contrast, this elevated brain activity pattern was not observed while they're drinking Pepsi. What does the study tell us? The study demonstrates what happens in our brains unconsciously when we think of a popular brand like a Coca-Cola. The study also demonstrates that our thoughts, feelings, and memories can unconsciously change our experience with the product. This is exactly how the unconscious mind influences our choices. The thoughts, feelings, and memories evoked by the Coca-Cola brand are the strong emotional connections people have. And Coca-Cola missed those strong emotional connections when they reduced this iconic drink to just taste. This is why New Coke failed. Through this brain study, we can see how marketing influences our emotions and our decisions without our awareness. This is where neuroscience meets marketing. Welcome to neuromarketing. Neuromarketing is the new science of consumer decisions. It studies
Hello. I think something went wrong in the middle, right? I was put out of the meeting. Well, did you observe the video clip till the end?
No, sir. Just
Where
halfway through.
Stopped halfway, right?
Yeah, halfway.
Yeah, that's the thing, because I was also on the other screen. So when I came back, I saw that it had been thrown out. Can any one of you remember at which point it has thrown you out? What was the last thing that he was talking about?
This was regarding Coca-Cola and Pepsi.
Yeah. My God. Okay, now we don't have time, so we will have a look at it later. But what I will do is I will be now sharing you some links in the chat, right? So basically those are related to some research findings about banks, right? So I would suggest that you go through those links and download the required material, right? There are some PDFs which are very valuable insights which you can take. So I will now post those links, right? So you can download these and basically read these articles, which will actually help you to get a better understanding about what we have discussed. And mind you, if you go through it, there are some very good studies where you learn about the banking industry and the customers, right? So I have posted all the links. So go through those links and download. So we will meet up next time, and I think next week we can finish this and start consumer behavior, so that we can move forward with the consumer behavior part immediately after research.
So the last week's duty is not uploaded to the classroom.
That's what I checked at the beginning. Someone said it is there.
No, sir, it's not there.
Are you sure? This week's one is there, is it?
Yeah, this week's one is there, and the one before that was there, and that additional reading you gave us, the additional reading material,
No,
I think
it
from
is not.
Glenn Armstrong.
Yeah, it's also there.
It's also there. The last week's duty isn't there.
Okay, then I'll check. Then because when I asked at the beginning, I was told that all three is there, but then I will check with the office again. Is it common with others also?
Yeah, we spoke, and they also said it's not there.
Yes, sir, it's not there.
Okay. All right, fine. And in the meantime, I will be sharing my mobile number now on the chat. So just take a note of it and send me your numbers also, so that send me your numbers also, so that we can keep a WhatsApp chat, and then you all can interact with me on WhatsApp. So I'll try to develop a group also, but I think some of the people are not participating for the classes, so I can't help them. But whoever that is participating, we can have a group, and then basically you all can keep in touch until the exam. So I just shared my number. So send me a SMS with your name and the bank, so that I will save your numbers, and then we'll try to create a group. Okay, so we call it a day, and we'll catch up next week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.